Welcome back to my channel. Today we will start building a highly scalable application, and we will use WordPress as our example. And today we will build this using Amazon Elastic File System. Now, Amazon Elastic File System is a very unique product, and it's one that helps in building a highly scalable application. And it's because this is a service that's a little bit like S3, an S3 bucket where you store your files, but it has close to the performance of a hard drive that you attach to an EC2. It's not as fast, but it's not as slow as having an S3 bucket. And the benefits are that you have a file system where you could store all the files that you use. For example, for your WordPress site, all the plugins, all the installation files, everything, you could have them in your Amazon Elastic File System. And this will grow as you add files, as you add media, and it just keeps growing. And you don't have to provision files or storage, I should say. You don't have to say, oh, I want 100 gig of space. No, you start out at 0 and it will grow as you grow. If you delete files, it will shrink the storage for you. And it's not as inexpensive as an S3 bucket or as a hard drive attached to your EC2, but it's not that expensive either. And if you come here to their website that explains this, it gives you an average rate of about 8 cents per gig per month. And obviously, we have to take one thing into consideration here, is that there are two storage classes. There's the standard storage class, and then there's infrequent access. And when you have a combination of these two, that's how you can achieve the lower rate. So the EFS, infrequent access, or IA storage class, is only 2.5 cents per gig per month. Now, we want to specify this is highly redundant. It's not stored on one little area that could go down. This is highly redundant, and it grows with you. It's very, very nice. I recommend that you read through this documentation and look at the pricing and see if this is something that you could use. And we will start building our small infrastructure here, our highly available WordPress site. And it will not be highly available once at the end. I mean, this will take a couple videos or a few videos for me to show you how to scale this out. But this is one way that we could scale it out. And maybe you're already scaling out by having an S3 bucket for all your media, your pictures, your WordPress pictures and videos and the images. Maybe you're already doing that. And there's several plugins out there that are very good. You just put in your information on what your S3 bucket is, and it goes to town. It displays all this for you. And that's how you progressively start building. There is no one way of building a highly scalable web application. There are many, many ways in all of these cloud providers, AWS, GCP, and Azure. This is just one extra way that we could do this. It's one step in the journey of building a highly scalable WordPress site. So here we are in the AWS console, and let's go to look for EFS. And it's very, very simple. And you can watch these videos and read about all the details that are here. It's very nice. We create a file system. and it'll tell you create an EFS file system with service recommended settings. You could read about that here. You can name your EFS. It chooses the VPC. This is a brand new setup so that you could see how this works. Let's just call this AWS EFS. And we could just create it here, but I want to show you some of the settings. We can customize this. And we are going to pick all of the defaults. And here's the name. You can see that we have backups enabled. And this is how you achieve, with the lifecycle management, this is how you achieve the lower rates. You enable this lifecycle management automatically. And if you say none, everything will be in the standard storage unless you specify something different. But the default is that 30 days since last access. And the interesting thing is, a website, not every single page is getting hit every single day. For example, your front page will always be in standard storage because as soon as they hit your domain, that's when they get that front page. But let's say an article that you wrote a few months back that's not getting many hits, it'll probably go into the infrequent storage, you see, after 30 days. And that's what you want to do. And what is the performance mode? Well, we just have general purpose, okay? And we keep going. And by default, encryption of data at rest is selected. Very nice. Click on next. And you see, these are all your mount targets. Like I said, it's highly available. Just go next. And here you could specify certain file system policies. For example, let's say we want to enforce in-transit encryption, and it puts together the configuration here that you need. Like I said, we're going to use all the defaults, so we're not going to touch that. Next. And that is it. Very simple. You don't even have to wait for anything because there is no storage. But when you click on it, it gives you some details. Okay. But the area we want to actually look at is up here. Now, when you look at this, you're looking for, okay, how do I use this? But you come here, attach. And very nice. Amazon gives you the entire command in 2 different formats. So now Amazon has this EFS Mount Helper. I can't remember when this came out, but it hasn't been that long. And this is how you could mount it on your EC2. Okay. Now let's close this for a second. And let's go to the services, and we'll go to EC2. And we don't have any, and we'll launch one. We'll pick all the defaults except one. Configure. And it might be a little bit hard for you to find where you can select this. We haven't even selected storage. You see storage is up here. And your mind might tell you, okay, this is where I got to go to install it. And nope, that's not it. It's right here. It's right here. File systems. Look at this. Click on add file system. Automatically adds it there. And this is what you will see on this instance. And it's interesting because as soon as you click on this, this gets populated. I should have scrolled down before I did this. But let's see. Okay, there we go. If you take it off, you'll see it's not there. As soon as I do add file system, and because it's the only one that I have, it's automatically selected. If you have others, then you have to pay attention to which one it is. And it puts all these commands in there that are run at the same time that it's building this instance for you. So it's like a small script. Okay, and now we can go next, add storage, and this will be here, your 8 gig standard. And and there is one other area we have to go to. This is brand new. So if you're building a WordPress site, it's very important that you see this. Your launch wizard, unless you already have this built, but the security group port, if you notice, only port 22 is open for SSH. But there's no internet access, port 80. And this is the only one you have to change. And might as well add HTTPS as well. This is one small difference from the GCP console, where there's 2 little check marks that you have when you're building an instance on the GCP console. It automatically says you want to enable HTTP, HTTPS, and you select yes. Okay. Now we review and we launch this. And once again, we have to create a key pair. There are no key pairs here, so I will create a new one. And let me just call this AWS EFS tutorial. Okay. And I will download this key pair. And we will launch these instances. Okay, now we want to view these instances. And you'll see it's in a pending state. This will change rather quickly. We can see that our instance is now in a running state. That happened rather quickly. We can click on the instance and click on connect. And last time I did a video on how to connect just from here. It's AWS's own terminal that you could use right from your browser. But today we'll use the SSH client. And if we recall, we downloaded the key, and AWS gives us the command. We simply copy, go to our command prompt, and I'm using Windows, and just paste it in there, hit enter, and we are in. And right off the bat, we do a sudo yum update and let it install everything it needs to install to be up to date. And in order to make this as simple as possible and not go through the whole installation of WordPress, I will show you how to just install Docker. And we've done that in another video before. We'll install Docker and docker-compose. And for Amazon has their own way of doing this. If you try to run the normal command that is off of the Docker website, it won't work. But we will come to this page here, Docker Basics for Amazon ECS, and this is right on Amazon's website. So we already did the yum update, and we'll install this. As you can see, it says sudo amazon-linux-extras. A little different way of installing this, but we'll run it here. And this takes a little bit. Once it finishes the installation, we can install the Docker. So if we go back, we have these commands to run. And just copy them one by one. Okay, and that's done. And it tells us to change the user. It's EC2 user. And we will do that. And we are done. And like it says here, probably need to log in, log out. Log out and then log back in. And that's what we will do. We'll log out. And we'll log back in. Same command. Here we go. And if we run docker info, we have our information. Okay. And now I'll be running this with the docker-compose file. So here's another good link to have. And this will always have the latest and greatest. And same thing, very simple command that we could copy. Oops. There we go. And it installed it. And we apply the executable on it. And there we go. Okay, so we have that ready. Now let's check and make sure that we have our EFS mounted. And if you recall, there is a mount directory. So I'll do ls-mt, and this is very simple because you can just put ls/mlt and just keep tabbing away, and you'll be, see, and what was it called? FS1. And what is there? We don't have anything in there. Very, very nice. So we have our EFS mounted from those commands. That's startup script that AWS puts in there when we're configuring an instance, and we specify the EFS, or not even the EFS, it just says file system. So now that we know that's there, we can proceed. And now let's go through the process of creating our WordPress site now that we have Docker and Docker Compose installed. And here is a script that I used in one of my previous videos on running WordPress in Docker using Docker Compose. And we have the two containers that we will use. And won't go through much detail about it. It's just your typical MySQL and WordPress containers. But here you'll see that the values, it's referencing the mount point that we use, mount EFS FS1. And I will add this MySQL folder so that it runs internally. And the way it works is this is the external, or should I say the file or directory that's on the local instance, but it's a mount point, so it's not really local. And this is internal to the container. Same thing here. The external, which is the mount point of the AWS EFS, and the internal. This is where WordPress will run or store the files internal to the container. But as I mentioned, this is your EFS mount file system. Can be a little confusing to put it into words, but just remember this is external, internal to the container. And this is all we have to do, and we just copy this whole thing. And what I will do is I will make a directory. I'll just call it WordPress. And I will go into this directory, and I will create a docker-compose.yml file, and I will paste everything in there. Okay, and we save that, and all we have to do is docker compose up, and I run it this way. As you know, the -d will run it in the background, but here I want to see all the error messages that we get. And it goes through the process. Like I said, this is brand new instance, brand new configuration. So it's going through the process of downloading these container images to the local machine. And after a few minutes, it should run through the process, and it creates what we need. Okay. And now we just have to go back to our Amazon instance page. Let's go to the instance, and here is our public DNS. We'll open a tab, put that in there, and there we go. There is our WordPress installation. And now that we have our site, our WordPress site up and running, we can do whatever we want, just as any other WordPress site, except that these files, including the database, are being served by EFS. Now, running the database on EFS is not what I recommend, and I don't think they recommend that either. But it's just for demonstration purposes. What we want to see is the database running on RDS or some type of external database running on AWS, and then having EFS store your files. And it will grow and it will shrink depending on your usage. So let's say I want to install another theme here, and we'll pick our most popular theme, Astro, and we can install it and activate it, and we can install the starter templates, select Elementor, and we'll just pick any of them, and we'll import the complete site. And here we go. And while this is installing, if I go back to the command prompt and I check my mount point, we will see that there is the MySql and the www, which is running the WordPress files. Very neat, huh? And what's interesting is if you build another server, the topic is highly redundant, and how do we start? Well, we could build another server and point it to the same mount point, and it will use the same files. And when we go to Amazon's website, one of the things it mentions is, let's see, where is this? Right here. Amazon EFS is designed to provide massively parallel shared access to thousands of Amazon EC2 instances. So once again, highly available website. And this is just one step in the process of creating this highly available website. And here is our theme now installed. Very, very cool. Well, that is it for this video. I hope that you have learned something in your journey to create a highly available, highly scalable website or any other application. We tend to use WordPress, and most videos out there use WordPress because it is a very good application to demonstrate the features that most other applications need. A website, a web server, I should say, and some type of database, whether it's internal, external. And when you first start out, or when you build one of these WordPress sites using one of the smaller providers out there, you don't see the internals of your server. They give you a link, you click on it, you install WordPress. But when you outgrow that, then you start thinking about building your own server. When you outgrow that, you start thinking, how can I segregate this server, segregate the database from the server? And as you keep growing and growing, you start thinking in terms of, okay, I want my media served by S3. That's a start. But then you say, I want my media served by a CloudFront or another CDN that can provide this. And then you start thinking, okay, I need multiple different servers to have access to these files. And then that's where EFS comes in. So you have multiple servers, an external database that's redundant. You have your files and media being served by CloudFront, being populated by S3 bucket. And you also have all your files and all your servers accessing the same EFS storage. And this is fully redundant, and it's scalable and grows and shrinks with you. And that's how you continue to build this process. But it's good to take it one step at a time, because if you take too much at one time, you might get set in a certain way. And Amazon keeps developing newer technology. Everyone does. And it's good to take it a piece at a time. That way, when you need to migrate one of these separated services, it's easier than taking one server and trying to modify everything at the same time. I hope you enjoyed this video, that you learned something here in your journey to learn AWS and also to build highly scalable websites and web applications